We've already talked about absolute and programmatic music, but let me refresh your mind. Absolute music refers to music that is music for the sake of music. It's obviously when a composer writes something, they're generally inspired by something, but it doesn't intend for the listener to necessarily feel the exact same feelings the composer was feeling. It's take it how you want it to be. But program music is intended to depict a certain mood. So when you hear a certain sound, you're supposed to have certain feelings. If we were listening to a heavy metal piece, it would probably be a little bit better to depict the mood of anger and enthusiasm or whatnot. Whereas if we're singing about a love song, you would probably want more of a softer music that reflects the text that you're singing about. Well, program music became more important during the Romantic period. During the Classic period, absolute music was more or less the king, because it was more about instrumental music that really was based on very specific forms. But during the Romantic period, we got into more taking some liberties with form, and we're more songs, there's more opera, there's more music that's just, again, intended to make you think of a very specific mood, image, or whatnot. So once again, I just restate, program music was more important during the Romantic period. In addition to being programmatic, Romantic music was also very lyrical in its melodic concepts. It was often very chromatic and dissonant. Now, if we talk about those three things, we can also throw in the emotional one. All of them have to do mostly with utilizing more complicated rhythms. Now, there's more to it than just that, but by making a melody lyrical, if we were to sing Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, let me sing the right note, I think that would be good. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. That's pretty boring. You'd probably sing like jingle bells, jingle all the way. Well, that's the way things were actually written on paper. Showed that, where most of the time when you say something is vocal, you might take an instrumental idea, something as simple as but you don't play it like that. You play. Now there was dynamic changes there. There were some notes made a little longer, some notes made shorter. It all ends up fitting in the same spot, but when you write that down, it looks like a much more complicated rhythm. It also has a much more emotional feel to it. When you just play blah 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 blah, it's very disconnected. Kind of disconnected, a little hipper. And by chromatic and dissonant, those are two other terms. Now, first of all, chromatic just means one note right after another. So where we have scalar, might sound like, even if you don't really know much about music, you've probably walked by a choir room and heard some people go, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and I missed the last note. I sang a little sharp. That's scalar. Where chromatic, if we were going from there to there, involves every note instead of just, we've skipped a note from there. We could have gone, that's chromatic. We skipped one. Well, if we were to go, that's chromatic, as opposed to big difference. Now, dissonance really just means sounds that do not sound particularly pleasing to the ear. They're supposed to create tension. So you say, why would anyone write something that sounds bad? Well, the idea of something sounding bad is that when you finally make something sound good afterward, it makes it all the more wonderful. I guess, like playing sports, the fun isn't in going out and, when you're playing football, getting the stuffing beat out of you. It's in winning the game and trying to beat the stuffing out of the person you're going against. All those things, well, when it's finally done, that makes it all the more fun because you went through the suffering. I guess you could look at dissonance the same way, where, let's say, this sounds, for the most part, consonant or scalar. Nothing sounds too weird. If I were to go, that's pretty. And then we get back to normal. Well, guys in between, especially that one, that's the Jimi Hendrix chord. Yeah, well, anyway. You get those nasty chords in there, that's dissonance. Well, romantic music would have lots of dissonance, lots of chromaticism, combined with a very lyrical way of playing melodies, all in a way to just kind of be more individual and at the same time give a more programmatic feel. Final thing to add about romantic music, and I wouldn't add it, but it's on the test. Haha. The orchestra itself was at its largest that it has ever been, and probably ever will be, since microphones came shortly thereafter. But during the Romantic period, the orchestra was at its largest, and it was much thicker in texture than any time prior in history. In saying that, I should also say that orchestration and arranging became just as important of an art during the Romantic period as was the writing of music itself. And we talked in the Classic era about Haydn being something of a great arranger, but the way music was arranged during the Romantic era really made a big decision on whether people were going to listen to it or not. And again, during this period, promotion of yourself and your music is huge.